Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I am your host, as always, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Neil Widener.
Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense.
I have no idea where this one came from and I could not find a single news story on it. It's super interesting though. So please, if you have a news story, know where this one came from, please let me know because my Google foo failed me. We have audio, let's listen in.
Hey bro, you better just go.
I'm gone.
You're interfering.
Go on, get on. Hey.
Officer, stop. They beat him.
Hey, don't hit me, G. Hey, do not hit me.
Fuck all that shit, man.
For real. Hey.
Oh, they stumping his ass.
What you mean, nigga?
Just breathing. People in the parking lot.
Hey, where that come from?
Right here.
Don't beat that man up now, y'all.
Going down to the clay. Look at all these people. Relax. No, relax. I'm on.
Hey, back up, man. Back up.
He's cool.
Oh boy, that was a good old-fashioned potluck right there. Boy, everybody brought a dish. They did apparently obviously get this guy into custody. It doesn't look like the officer was badly hurt by the butt kicking he took. Hey, we love that you are watching the daily lessons here at Active Self-Protection, but you know what bothers me, Neil, is that our second channel that teaches handgun skills is so criminally underwatched.
It really is. There is so much stuff. There's 7 videos a week there by some pretty good folks. Of course, there's you and I. Steph is over there. Chris Bean is over there. Carrie Dudenhofer is over there. We get to talk with Tim Forshee every now and again. Man, there is great content there, and we just don't get the views that we need over there. You guys should check that out.
Yeah, this is our mindset channel. That is our skill set channel, Active Self-Protection Extra. Hit the link in the description. Check it out. So Neil, this one isn't really like a badge cam analysis. This is obviously a cell phone video, but our officer here decides he's gonna take this guy to the ground and he does an absolutely horrifically bad job of it. And if the only training you've ever done is against a compliant opponent, oh, here's how you take somebody down and they let you do it, well then, when it comes time for somebody who's non-compliant, who actually has malevolent intent, it's significantly harder than that. And so any high school wrestler can tell you actually taking somebody down is hard work.
It's not easy at all. And I think that, like you say, John, if we only practice this with a compliant partner, then we don't get the lesson that we need. And when it counts, I think this officer was really lucky in this case to walk away as unscathed as he did.
I think he was very lucky. And so hear me, officers, you need to go beyond your department's defensive tactics training. And if this guy, hey, step up get on your radio, step up the backup, because when you can get a polyester pileup there, then you can get a guy into custody a whole lot easier and get him on the ground when you have help. If you got to do it one-on-one, you better be good at it. And you better have more than, oh, I'm just going to have a little two-step with the guy. Because what ends up happening here is what happens pretty regularly, is that our officer, rather than getting the guy on the ground or getting him into a compromised position, The officer is the one who ends up on the ground here. He goes down to the ground and ends up in bottom position. Here's one thing that high school wrestling won't teach you. It won't teach you to defend yourself from bottom position, because if you've got your shoulders pinned to the mat like this guy does, the match is over. And instead, this guy is going to start raining down blows on the officer, which is why maybe some jiu-jitsu training, but also maybe some Muay Thai, some MMA style training, some Western boxing, learning to fight off your back is, I think, important for all self-defenders.
It's really important. And the other thing is the attitude that just because you're on your back doesn't mean you're out, doesn't mean you lost, and I think, like you say, in high school wrestling or even college wrestling or whatever wrestling level you're at, when your shoulders hit the floor, it's over. In the real world, it's not over. The bad guy in this case, or your opponent in this case, is still fighting. And now he's really bringing the fight, punching you in the face multiple times. So you have to stay in it mentally, and you have to understand it's not over till it's over, and you got to stay in the fight.
You've got to stay in the fight. Also, remember, my jiu-jitsu coach, Josh Stockman, liked to say, pay the bills, right? And the first bill you got to pay, most important bill, is protect your head, your face, and your neck. And so using that, a horizontal shield, a vertical shield, those kinds of things, you learn those on the mat. You're not going to learn them here in a YouTube video. So learn how to protect your head, face, and neck, because that's the first bill you got to pay. And he actually doesn't do a great job of doing that. He gets some serious blows and butt kicking on him because he's not very good at fighting, quite frankly. And that's a deficiency. Then, I mean, a bunch of good guys to the rescue here. And I do think from a legal perspective, I think it is so obvious here that attacking a law enforcement officer and punching him in the face like that is a moral evil, that you're going to get broad latitude from the courts for protecting and defending a law enforcement officer. I would say, Neil, that I would recommend that you ask the officer if they need help before you step in. And recognize that it does come with non-zero risk.
Yeah, there is still risk there that you don't know if this guy is armed or not. You don't know if he's got a knife or something else that he's going to hurt you with. You don't know that you're not going to shatter your own hand when you punch that guy in the head. There is some risk that's going to happen there. And again, also understand that the cavalry is coming, and you don't have the same uniform on as the cavalry. So when they get there, there's some more stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there is risk when you get involved. And I like the idea of asking, hey, officer, do you want some help? In this case, I'm just thrilled that the bystander stepped in and took care of business. And I think it got a little out of hand, but it was nice to see the community step up and help this officer.
Yeah, and listen, I always say I'd be careful stepping into third-party encounters when you don't know the whole thing going on. Even I will say, if you don't like cops, though, it's probably a moral good to step in and stop this guy fighting, because he's at best, he's going to jail for aggravated assault here for kicking the crap out of a cop. And at worst, his cop buddies are going to show up and fill this guy full of lead. And so even if you're like, nah, I don't like the cops do bad things all the time, stopping this guy is probably a moral good, and helping the officer get him into custody, whether you like cops or not. And I do think personally there are some that you just got to step into, and this is maybe one of them. And now the potluck begins, man, and they beat the crap out of this guy. And again, I think you're going to get pretty wide latitude, but let's be real, man. As much as you go, yeah, that guy, he put the token in the skee ball machine, so he gets to spend the Chuck E. Cheese tickets. But, at the same time, eventually you got to stop, because this is punitive, not protective.
Yeah, the potluck portion of this, I think, went on a little bit too long. It was 60 seconds before the officer re-engaged. I had to watch it a couple of times, and I timed it just to see that. And in that time, some of the people came back for seconds of the potluck as well. And at this point, like you say, it's just punitive. The guy is under control. Get him under control. Get him in the handcuffs, and let him pay his dues. In the court system.
So my guess is they had some beef with this guy to begin with, and that's why when the officer then said, hey, I'm going to arrest this guy, then they're like, well, hey, now we can get our revenge on this dude. I just think that that's a little problematic, even if it's kind of funny. Now, officer steps in here to say, okay, I got to re-engage. 60 seconds. I think it is literal, pure blind luck that he made it out of this one, Neil. We always say, hey, you're your own first responder. Nobody's coming to save you. In this case, somebody did, But if he hadn't, Neil, this guy could very well be badly injured or even dead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was laying on his back. He's taking shots to the face. He's just getting pounded on. Without that help there, I don't know that that officer walks away. He very easily could have had his own gun taken away from him and shot with it, all of those kind of things. So, I think this officer is really fortunate and hopefully learned the lesson here that it's time to go get to the mats. And again, back to you're not out of the fight. He stepped out of the fight for 60 seconds and let somebody else take care of business. And during that time, the other guy could have been killed by the mob. And so, you're the one with the authority. You're the one with the badge. Stay in the fight and get back in it and take control as best you can. You have help on the way. Maintain control as long and as best as you can.
Yeah, amen. I also want to just take a minute to talk about this lady here who kind of steps in and is making sure that, okay, we need to stop kicking this guy's butt. He's going to get him into custody. That's great. I honor that, and I honor her wanting to be the voice of reason. I will recognize everyone's being really unreasonable here right now. And so you trying to step in and be like the conscience is a great way to get punched in the face. It's a great way for bad things to happen. So be very cautious with that. That said, what she did, I think, really mattered here in particular. So I honor her for it, and I think that she really did a good job and deserves our commendation for that. But recognize it's super dangerous. Now, our guy who held him down, props to him for just kind of finally holding this dude down, wanting to continue to hold him down. We got to take a minute and stop here because when he sticks his knee kind of on that guy's neck, the lady's going to really get after him here. Hey, wait a minute, man. You got to get your knee off of someone's neck. And in light of what happened with George Floyd, this is obviously has huge implications for America, okay? As a police officer, they're trained extensively on this. As private citizens, not as much. Sticking your knee in someone's neck can kill them very, very quickly. There is a way to do this, which we call a shin pin, which you can put the flat part of your shin on their shoulder, not on their neck, not on their head, on their shoulder, which will pin them to the ground. But from outside, Neil, those can look very similar and people can get very upset about that.
Yeah, they look almost identical, especially in a dark parking lot with a lot of stuff going on and everybody's hyped up. They're going to look very, very similar. And that's what when that lady stepped up, I was just thrilled to see somebody say, hey, we're going to keep this guy under control, but let's be careful. Let's not kill him and let's not get somebody else in trouble over this whole thing. This guy is the knucklehead, at least he's identified as the knucklehead in this video. Let's get him in custody and make sure everybody else stays safe and isn't fighting the law for something that, they had great intentions. And the next thing you know, they're sitting in a courtroom.
Right. And that's what you don't want. Now, also, I want to note that the cavalry has arrived, right? So he's got backup finally on the way. I'll recognize, remember, even if you're a cop, backup ain't going to get there in time. And as a private citizen, they're sure not going to get there in time. But I really want to pay attention to what happens here because our citizen in the white shirt, our dude who helped get this guy subdued, when the cops show up, he comes in hot. And remember, they're going to be kind of coded by, by their dispatch. Officer down, officer needs help. And anybody who's not wearing the uniform is going to kind of by default be seen as the bad guy. And that's kind of what happens here. He pushes this guy off pretty hard. Thankfully, our other cops like, no, wait a minute. That's a good guy. Okay, fine. But I think that if you're in there helping, you should kind of maybe expect the next cops who show up to not know that you're on their team. And so you've got to be okay with, from an emotional perspective, being seen as a bad guy for a few seconds.
Exactly. And this guy did a great job of it. You can see there was just a catch there for a minute when he first got pushed. But then he reoriented. Oh no, the cavalry is here. I can step back now. I am one of the good guys. But we as private citizens got to understand that if we're going to step in and help, that when the cops show up, they aren't going to hear over the radio who the good guys are and how they're all dressed or what they're wearing. And so on that day, just be prepared for it, react accordingly, and you'll be able to cover your asp.